Welcome to episode 6 of the Real Talk Trader. And we've got a treat for you today. We've got the one and only Alix Inch. Hey,
Oh,
Alex, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for coming on and sharing your journey because we've got a lot to talk about, and I know a lot of members want to know the real Alex and about your life. Not just about your trading, because you've been trading and mentoring for years now,
Yeah.
but we want to understand your reasons, your why why you do it essentially, and what drives you to, not just because you could just sit there and trade, so why do you enjoy mentoring? So let's start from the beginning. Tell
Okay.
us a bit about your journey, a bit about you, and a bit about your why.
So, those of you that know me probably know me and know that me and Ryan have been friends for a long time. I know Ryan's been on the podcast, so obviously we all work in the Forex Club together. So, the way that I got into trading is it's very much along the same timeline as Ryan. So, we essentially had two big events happen in our lives. Ryan obviously got stabbed, and at the time we were working as ground workers, so we were digging holes, doing that stuff. But nice physical work. I enjoyed it. However, it wasn't the life that I wanted to have. But you get stuck in a rut, don't you? Um,
Mhm.
I was trying to trade. I was kind of learning to trade and doing bits. I was semi consistent. It was long before prop firms, so I put some of my own money in, a couple of thousand
Yeah,
pounds,
yeah. how
and
did how did you start how did you start trading? Because back then there wouldn't have
yeah.
been educational platforms
So
and
I started to look into trading, and the first thing I came across was spread, not spread betting. I can't remember what it was called now, but essentially you bet on whether the currency is going to go up or down over a short period of time. However, the odds are stacked massively against your favour, so against
uh-huh.
you. For instance, if you risk a pound, you'd get back 80p. If you lose the pound. So you have to
Yeah.
have a very, very good success rate. Um, I kind of started doing that. I figured out that there was money to be made. However, I didn't think that the money that could be made was massive in that area. So I started to do more research into the actual forex market and trading on
Hmm.
the charts, opposed to just using an app that we had. Um, and it was similar to the time that Ryan got stabbed. Within about 3 weeks of it, um, my wife, she's my wife now, but my partner at the time, she got really sick. She'd had an underlying autoimmune disease,
Uh-huh.
and she kind of got very, very sick very quickly, to the point where she was like in hospital with like full organ failure, couldn't get out of bed.
Wow.
So she was back and forth from hospital, couldn't get out of bed. Obviously, it was not ideal for me to be at a job all day because
Hmm.
there wasn't anyone to look after her. We'd obviously recently moved into our own place together and stuff like that, so it was the worst time. However, work at the start were really good. I'd worked there a long time. They said to me, "Look, go and take as much time as you need." So I took a couple of weeks. I took 4 weeks of holiday, which I had. Stayed at home, looked after her, and in between, it wasn't very exhilarating, shall I say? It was mainly caring for and sitting around doing nothing until she needed something else. So it really enabled me to really, really push on and spend a lot of hours over that kind of month refining what I'd done. Because I'd say that I had a strategy. Back then, the whole back testing thing was not a thing because there was no one to tell me to back test. So it was a case
Yeah.
of I was live trading it with very small lots. Like this is
Okay.
before I even understood correct risk management. So we're talking like 11 years ago. Um, Trading with like 0.01, 0.1, just very small trades and just closing it for 20, £30 or whatever it got to on gold a lot of the time. I had a very simple strategy that used Bollinger Bands and EMAs, and I kind of sold when we were overbought and bought when we were oversold, and it kind of worked pretty well. Trading back and
Well,
forth
I've not heard the word Bollinger Bands for years.
a long time. But yeah, and then I went back to work, and they said, "Look, if you need to take a bit more time off, take some more time off. We understand." So I did. I took another 2 weeks, and I managed to organise extra care and stuff like that in that 2 weeks. So I was like, "Good, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go back to work." let's go. So I went back to work, and then the morning I went into the work, they said, look, well, you're off. We've lost some contracts. The decision was made, sadly, that we're going to let some people go. Obviously, because you haven't been here for a little while, you've been off. Obviously, that's not your fault. However, we're gonna have to let you go. So I was at a crossroads there where I had the opportunity. It was almost like the perfect storm because I didn't want to lose my job. However, I had this new thing that I was semi-consistent with that I'd put a little bit of time into, and I thought, right, the opportunity is now to either to go and get another job, which means I have to go somewhere else and not have any time off, or I can just burn the boats and just go for it. So that's what I did. I took all of our savings, put it into a trading account, began to trade.
Yeah.
The problem at that point was the amount of money I had in there, which was just below like £10,000. I had outgoings of about £2,000 a month. So I was having to make a big amount of money, like 20% a month, to essentially pay my way. So as you can imagine, the risk management was not all there.
Yeah.
It was. People need to remember though that it was a time long before there being YouTube videos on how to calculate stop losses and stuff like this. It was essentially a trial and error way. Now, at this same time, when I was at home doing that, Ryan was at home, unable to work, and it was a case of we started to spend more time together actually doing the trading together and starting to figure it out. When Ryan got better, and he could go back to work about a year down the line, and we were consistent, which is lucky because I think where we had two people, it was much easier for us to, number one, kind of test things that worked. We could do, two sets of eyes on different things. And it got to a point where Ryan still had a long lease on a groundworks unit, on a big unit. So we actually turned that into like an office. And then comes the normal process of when you're doing something and you're not working a normal job and people see you making good money, they want to understand what you're doing. So it started off with people that we know asking us. So we'd take people in and we'd show them kind of what we're doing, give them a bit of a blueprint. And then that kind of escalated massively to where we are now, a lot of way. But that's how I got into it. It was kind of one of those moments in your life when it's like, if I don't do it now, I'm probably never going to do it. So I was kind of pushed.
And
I just decided to give it all. And it's so far.
And here you are now.
Worked out pretty okay.
So if we go back to that day where you got told that basically you were being made redundant from your role, and then you realised that you had just under 10k in a trading account, but you had to make 2k a month. How did that play on your emotions and the stress of family life? Because you were caring for your wife as well, and I think that's key for viewers to understand that you are human as well.
Yeah, and one of the things that so this is one of the very early things that me and Ryan decided to do, and the kind of way our brains think is, if we can trade 24/7, we'd probably make more money, right? But someone needs to sleep. So Ryan and me used to take turns. So one of us would trade in the day, and then the other one would rest in the day and kind of care, like he'd rest up or do whatever, and I'd care for my wife, and then the other one would stay up the night. So we'd do that week on, week off. So we're effectively a 24-hour trading system. But the risk, the emotions that go with it, I don't think anyone is. Look, when you've got prop firm capital, like the new generation has, I think it's absolutely fucking wonderful. I think it's great that prop firms exist. It's opened the door to so many people that wouldn't usually be able to gain 100, 200, 300, 400, £100,000 in funding. However, I don't think that they ever quite master the understanding of what it actually is to trade your own money when that money is all you have.
Well, it's only what, you're only putting 500 quid in, aren't you, for 100k? Whereas, could you imagine putting 100k of your own money in?
Well, we have to think that just under 10k was my life savings at that point. I was 23, 24. that was like my life savings that I'd got. That was obviously being put bit of saving to buy a house and all that stuff. So it was very much, do I think I can do it? Yes, and just get on with it. I'm one of those people that sometimes I need there to be no option. If there's lots of options, sometimes I'm just like, oh well, I'll just keep going with what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah.
When there's no option, that's when I really like I become almost ultra competitive with myself as well. Like I
Hmm.
almost to prove to myself and anyone else. Like when I left my job, for instance, there was a lot of people that were like, "You're fucking mad. Like there's no way this will work. Like you're actually crazy. Like just go and get another job. Like you're being stupid." Or
And what do they say now?
well, there's some of them I still speak to, and then there's funny situations. Like there's a couple of people that when shit hits the fan, you realize who your friends are and stuff. For instance,
Yeah.
me and Ryan have been friends since we were like 15, 16. Um, when shit hit the fan, he was like, "What are we gonna do so that we are okay?" That was the vibe. Whereas other people
Okay.
that you consider friends are, they say one thing, or they doubt you, or they don't think you're smart enough to do it, or they take the piss out of you behind your back. Now, you always find that stuff out. And there's been multiple
Uh-huh.
occasions where, for instance, the people that supported me, they've been like repaid with friendship. You know, I treat them well. I'm a good friend. I'm a loyal friend. I help them out where I can, give them advice. I've taught a lot of them to trade for free, so they can, whether or not they trade or they just invest money long term. I've done that. And then you get the other side of things where there's a couple of people that sniggered at it and took the piss out of it, and I bumped into them in Sainsbury's and stuff. The Sainsbury's next to where we used to work, they're all getting their lunch and stuff like
In
that.
their high vis and
Yeah, and they were like, "Hey mate, how's it
everything.
going?" And I'm just like, "Fuck off, mate!" Like, I just look at them like, "Don't think that I don't know what you said. See you later." Like that's it. I don't try and be. I've got no time for people like that. I'm 100%
Uh-huh.
100% transparent. So I've always been. Rubs people up the wrong way. However, if someone's loyal to me, I'll always be loyal to them, no matter what. If someone decides to try and cross you, it's okay. Like, I'm very much of the opinion of like, I don't not want you to eat. I want you to do well for yourself, but you're just not going to come and eat at my
Hmm.
table. You go somewhere else. That's it. Like,
I like it. So you built the business with Ryan,
yeah,
and then you and Ryan kind of stepped away from each other to focus on families, didn't you?
yeah.
So
So
I guess in this goes on to your why and
yeah,
why you carried on.
my initial why was, I think, the way that a lot of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial mindseted people feel, which is, the same as Ryan. Really, we didn't have anything when we were young. Our dads were both
Hmm.
grafters, good good men. Maybe not. Maybe they weren't like the father figures that you kind of see now when they're hands on with the kids, but they went out, they grafted, they brought the money in. A lot of the time was spent at the pub, you know. But we didn't have very much when we were kids, and that's not our parents' fault. That's just because they were doing what their parents had told them to do and what their parents had told them to do: get a trade,
Hmm.
get a job, get a wife, get a house, get a family. And it's that never.
Yeah.
Me and Ryan call it the perpetual cycle of doom. Just goes round and round, generation to generation. And my initial why was, it was hard when I was a kid. There was no kind of new football boots. There was no nice family holidays. Like when my mum and dad broke up, my mum actually moved me to Egypt for a little while to stay with family over there, because
Hmm.
it was a cheaper cost of living, and she had some of our family lived over there. They'd obviously married into an Egyptian family, so I was kind of uprooted and taken away there because we didn't have any money, so I had to leave everything. And I just decided when I got a little bit older that that's not what I wanted. That was never going to be. My kids were never going to have to run for anything or go from what they knew, or have a lower standard of life because of X, Y, and Z. So for me, it was that. So that it started off with, I was, just poor, like a lot of people are. You don't realize when you're a kid, but you start to notice as you get older, you can't
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
have the £150 football boots. You can't. Why are they going on holiday and to Spain and we're not?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and things like that. So, you're very aware of that, but that gave me a drive to push myself in what it was. And as I got older and we started the business, when we first started the business, it was very much focused around, in the right way, helping people, because that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't, we taught good strategies. A lot of the people we taught went on to be very good traders. However, we got into the problem that a lot of people get into, which is, let's just try and make as much money as possible.
Yeah.
So we were
Which
trading.
in hand meant you worked every hour under the sun.
Yes. So what began to happen was, we went and got an office. We were at the office from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. On the weekends, we'd do courses, 2-day or 3-day courses, anywhere from 15 people to about 60 people sometimes, which takes its toll on you anyway, because you're exhausted
Mm-hmm.
at the end of it. But I enjoy it. There's something really satisfactory about giving someone a set of tools and seeing them build something from it that you've taught them, and them getting better. That's a really enjoyable thing. However, there became a sticking point. Ryan had 2 kids and a 3rd kid on the way. I had a son and another son on the way. And it got to the point where we were just like, this isn't sustainable. This isn't enjoyable. The whole reason that we got into trading was for money and freedom. Now, we've got the money, but we've actually got so much less freedom than we had at a 9-to-5 job. So we kind of took that really hard decision to step away from the business. And the funny thing is, whenever you do something like that, people always assume the worst. So people
Yeah.
away, they assume, have you and Ryan fallen out? And it's like, no, like, we've been friends since we were kids. Like, we're best friends. We're like brothers. It would take something absolutely catastrophic, like world ending, for us to fall out. We've actually never even had an argument, ever.
It's just life got in the way. Family life.
It just became too much, and we decided that for us to be the parents and the husbands and the people that we wanted to be, one side had to give. Was it going to be the businessman side, or was it going to be the dad side? And we decided that, we wanted to focus on family. So we both went our own way, still talked, stayed in contact, still friends. But I kind of built my own community based around more of a swing trading style, and Ryan
Mm-hmm.
built more of a semi-automated trading style. And it was there where our paths started to kind of branch off, and we found our own feet, because, especially when you run a business together, there's a lot of compromise. I want to do this, you want to do that. No one really ever gets to put their stamp on a business, because you've always got to try and meet in the middle, which is good, because sometimes someone has a bad idea and Ryan will go, I'll have a bad idea, and Ryan will go, that's a terrible idea, let's not do that. And I go, oh, yeah, right. So it has its benefits, but at the same time, sometimes you need to kind of spread your wings a little bit and do your own thing. And then what's meant to be is what's meant to be. And obviously we're back together now doing our thing.
Yeah, and it's great. It's great to see you guys back together and me being a part of it, because both of you helped me along my way of my trading journey. So so I asked the community, a couple of people in Club 15.5, what they wanted to know about you. And one of the main questions that I was asked was, what 3 things do you love the most about mentoring? And then what are the 3 things where you think, God, just please leave me alone? Be honest.
3 things I love, 3 things I hate. Well, let's go with the
Yeah.
last first. Right. Number 1, when someone actually makes progress by listening to what you say, there's nothing more satisfying than you spending an hour on a call, whether this be automated software or manual trading.
Mm-hmm.
You give them a blueprint, you give them examples, and you say, go away, follow this process, do your own example of it, bring it back to me, and we'll have a look at it. Now, there's nothing more satisfying than when you open it up and you go, fucking perfect, great. It's like you've been doing it 10 years. This is amazing. Well done. Makes my job easy. I love that. I love when people send me messages. I've had so many messages, when the funding first came around as well, and people were getting funded, about things that, one of my students managed to take his family to Disneyland. Another one of my students, his wife was from Eastern Europe. she'd not been able to go back and see her family since she'd been over here.
Wow.
He got a payout. He managed to take her and their kids, which their grandparents had never met. Things like that. So just knowing that you make a difference, because sometimes it is hard. Sometimes someone says, mate, can I do a call today at 4 o'clock? And you're like, that's when my kids come home from school. I want to see my kids. However, you know, I don't want to turn that person down. So you take the call. So you don't mind doing that all the time that person's putting in effort. The time that someone's fucking you around and they say, can we do a call at 6 o'clock? I'm like, no, mate. No, we can't. Right? So those two, yeah. Obviously, when someone produces really good work, it's satisfying. When someone kind of changes their circumstances and kind of like without being cheesy, like a success story, you know. And number three is just helping other dads, because I don't know about you, Gemma. Obviously, we're very different in regards to like who we are, you know. But the majority of my clientele seems to be people that are inspired by what they see, because I don't post super flashy, fancy things. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not, you know, nice watches, a nice car, nice house, but I'm not out here. I'm not the Dubai lifestyle. I'm not about that. I have no interest in that. What I try and show is being with my kids, being present, being able to raise my kids, not just be a dad, raise my kids. And a lot of people, when they kind of say like, look, you've really inspired me to try and take on trading, because I want to spend more time with my kids, to know that I can show people through what I do that there is an opportunity for them to not just be dads that come home at 6:30 at night and have dinner on their own, microwaved, and then put their kids to bed, and then they don't see them in the morning. Because that's what it was like for me as a kid. My dad would go to work at 6 a.m. My dad never took me to school once, ever. Never picked me up from school once, ever. So
you do it pretty much every day, don't you?
Yeah, I do every pickup and every drop off. And like this afternoon, I'm going out to help at like kids' sports day. So I do everything and anything that anyone volunteers me for, I will do it. Because the way I see it is, even when you have bad days, it's very easy to wake up, feel a bit off, and be like, I've got to get up and take the kids to school. All I try and do is remind myself is that, no, I get to take my kids to school.
Yeah.
Even though it's pissing down the rain, they're not getting dressed 3 times after I've asked them to do it, and they're running around kicking each other in the living room. It makes it easy for me to remind myself that, you know, this is what I wanted. And although it may not be what I feel like doing right now, it is what I wanted to do overall. So those are the 3 things I love. Being able to inspire other people to kind of follow in my footsteps to have a better family life. When you see someone have like some sort of success story, which is beneficial to them, you know, and when people create like a lovely body of work from what you've shown them, and it shows that they actually listen to what you say. 3 hates. Number one, people that cannot watch fucking tutorials. Okay.
Oh God, the amount of messages that we get saying, "Oh, I've added MT4 to my desktop. Is this the right thing?" Well, it ain't going to work if it's not in your VPS, mate.
Yeah,
Have you watched the tutorial?
I understand that some people, you know, I've got like, so for me, I've got like a double-edged sword. I've got a little bit of ADHD and a little bit of Asperger's. So I've got one obsessive side, and then the ADHD makes me like unorganized. And they kind of marry up somewhere in the middle, and I'm all right. But I know that a lot of people, they just scan the information and then they want to get on because they're excited. I understand that.
Yeah.
But it's when they're like, I'm trying to add the wizard. What video? Oh, where can I find out how to watch the wizard? I'm like, you see that? It says video 3, how to add the wizard. Like, yeah. I'm like, that one. Like, just laziness.
Yeah.
Usually, once you've advised someone once, they go, oh, okay, there's the videos. I didn't realise that's where they were. But when it's a daily occurrence, it starts to fucking grind my gears a little bit, mate. What else?
We can leave it at that one if you want, because that was quite a big one of people just not listening, essentially.
There is another main one that I get.
Go on then. Go on.
The choppers and changes.
Yeah.
Right. A strategy has been built over 12 months worth of data, minimum, if you're doing it, if you're doing it swing trading, like manual, like I do sometimes, because for those that don't know, I still manually trade also.
Yeah.
taken 3 trades this year. 1 loss, 2 wins. We're about 26% up. So for me, it still makes sense to manually trade because we're like in
Doesn't take any of your time.
5 months in, I'm not even taking 1 trade a month. So there's zero amount of my time for big returns. But if a strategy's been built over 12 months worth of data and you've got stats that show a 70% strike rate, right? You need to let that play out over a minimum of 10 trades to see if the strike rate is
What it says.
accurate, right? So this is why people, their ego affects them or their feelings affect them. And I always said to people, when I very first started explaining to people how to trade, the market does not care about your feelings. It does not know you exist. It's not got an agenda to try and take you out. No one's trying to harm you. The biggest obstacle is going to be you. You are the only thing stopping your trading. And when you get a run of losses, let's say you've got a strategy with a 70% strike rate and it loses 3 trades in a row, what do? They turn it off, they build another one. That strategy they built previously is just going on to have 12 wins in a row. They've got no idea because they turned it off. So you've got to let statistics play out. This is a numbers game. This is a numbers game. And if you can't remove your emotions and let the numbers play out, you've got absolutely no business being in trading. You've really, that's like anyone listening to this that's thinking about getting into trading, if you can't handle taking a couple of losses in a row and you're going to completely rebuild your whole trading plan and trading strategy, this isn't for you. You've got to be able to just be, nope, that's what it is. I'm doing it. I'm going to let it play out. I am a robot. That's it. And the wife says that to me all the time. You are an emotionless robot. And I am.
So look where you are now. Exactly. So all those people with emotion, they're still sat at home, then crying, sat in the corner crying that they're not trading, sat there watching Netflix.
Exactly.
Where you've taken a couple of trades in 5 months and you've earned more than them in a couple of trades.
I get regular questions about, so I've got 3 strategies on the automated service. I've got US 30, D40 and gold. I did have UJ as well. I turned it off 2 months ago. It turned out to be, out of the 4, it was the least successful one. So I cut it and kept the 3 best. Now, one of them does, this is since December, because they've all been running consistently since December. So one of them's done, gold has done around 12.5%. US 30 has done 17%, and the D40 has done just over 30%. So we're looking at like just over 60%, a little bit over from automated trading, right? People message me and say, oh, how often do you tweak your strategies? I haven't tweaked them once. They're still the same strategies that we're running. If they have a losing month, I will pause them and I'll run the wizard on it and I'll fix it and I'll continue with some sort of resemblance of that strategy. I don't build a whole new strategy. So I think that's where people get mistaken, that chopping and changing is going to be a better result, where really just being consistent is, if you can be consistent at something, it's impossible not to be successful. If you can just be consistent. Little bursts of motivation or good mood or drive are absolutely nothing. They're absolutely nothing. You need to be consistent. And if you get up and you do what you say you're going to do every single day, you follow your rules and you just get on with it no matter how you feel, it's literally impossible to fail. Because you can only fail when you give up. That's it. Once you give up, that's it. And once you quit once, that becomes a habit and you start to quit everywhere in life. Never quit, ever.
That's great advice. Well, thank you. I think we'll leave it there. I think you've given some good advice and it will definitely help some traders. So as I always say at the end of these, any questions about our automated trading system, Alix's Instagram will be tagged below this, as is mine, and you can book a 30-minute call with us. But thank you, Alix, and it was great to see you.
It was good to chat.